I love how we always enter this room laughing. Welcome to episode 16 of Unruly by Nature with myself, Rachel Knott, Kim Hauer, and Sue Mim. This is a podcast where we're three friends, we're three dog mums, we're three animal therapists, and we're here to just mix things up a bit, to bring a bit of authenticity to the world, to share life from our perspective, and to have honest, deep, fun, playful conversations. And we very much come into these sessions having no clue what we're going to talk about, which is exactly what's happening right now. I've sat there this morning and I've had different things to do. And I thought, what are we going to talk about today? What are we going to talk about? And then I thought, we'll just see what happens. So I'm just going to see what pops into my head. So here is my question for you ladies. Because we know as soon as we ask a question, that's just the catalyst for something organically gorgeous happening. So my question for you both, starting with Sue, is Kim's like, yeah, get in. I get time to reflect and contemplate about it. It's only because I'm drawn to Sue's fabulous outfit. Sue, what for you is true right now as a dog mum, dog practitioner? What stuff is coming is important and true for you right now?
I'm feeling into that. I'm feeling into what feels true. Letting go, release, relief. That's what's feeling very real for me now. It's just, every day when I look at my dogs, I see it. I see a being that's been on a journey for 12, 14 years of their life, and they have so much wisdom of their own. They are so attuned to the world. They are so attuned to their own bodies. And I'm letting go more and more of my sense of these are my dogs and I need to do things for them versus these two beautiful beings are in my life and I get to witness them. I get to witness who they are every day and how they interact with the world. And they just show me things versus it's just like a complete role reversal for me. It's, getting out of the way of thinking that I need to be able to be doing stuff for them and, um, everything from how I feed them, how I train them, how I care for them, etc., versus um, allowing them to be themselves and showing me who I am through them as well.
Mhm.
I think that feels true for me
Yes.
at the moment.
Like my heart's exploding at what you just said.
Yes.
We came into every conversation like that as well, not just with our dogs,
Mm,
but with human
mm,
beings.
mm, mm, mm.
Mm.
Freeing.
I love that. That is amazing.
What about you, Kimberly Howard?
I mean, if I could have played back Sue's answer, I would definitely agree with all of that. I've changed how I approach my work, and I am absolutely unequivocally an animal-led practitioner where I think what the animals have to say and what they ask us for is the most important piece of this because we just get so locked in the control of it. And so for me, like what's true for me right now is just honoring the animals for being a different species and our choosing to live our lives with one another in this intimate way that's changed so much over my lifetime. The respect that we have, how we do things together, like dog sports, for example, are one of them. We choose to take our animals with us and on vacation to do activities. And I think it's such a beautiful thing, yet we still have this tinge of control that I'm gonna do a precursor to you, Sue, I think a little bit and talk about the blame and the guilt that we either put onto our animals for being aggressive or reactive, or that we put onto ourselves for failing to do something that we think we should have seen, but we're not omniscient. We don't see things until they happen. I mean, hindsight is wonderful, but we can't live our life guessing at what an outcome is going to be.
Mm.
So living in it and feeling in it is everything. And I think I'm just left in a state of gratitude. I don't want to use the word awe, but just absolute, utter gratitude for the blessing that I'm in this world experiencing the animals and living with them, and what the gifts are endless.
Mm. I feel like we could end the podcast right there. Honestly,
let's go.
like just so much when I'm listening to what you're both saying, it just, my whole body, like it feels really emotional. Like I feel really in my heart, that feels, obviously my soul needed to hear that today as well. And I just think, I'm just thinking for me, I'm always in a process of being a work in progress, and that not being a bad thing. That is life. And really still feel like 25 years I've been working with dogs. And really, it's only in the past, maybe, I don't know, it's actually hard to say when the turning points are, but really, really starting to deconstruct the human constructs more and more and more and more. Darcy is definitely helping me with that, because she is a dog that is highly expressive and vocal and big in her like reactions and her personality in different situations. I really have got zero desire to change that. Like, no, bullshit. There was a bit of a bullshit in there. There are moments when I drive or like drive along and I see people walking their dogs along the beach, and I may have before it would have been massive. I would have had so much envy that these people are just plodding along with their dogs, walking along the beach, and and I would have been like, oh, I would have had so much envy. And that has only changed because I've changed, not because I've changed her. So, that I just don't have that desire now. It might ping in every so often and I'll listen to it. I'll listen to that true feeling of like, oh, I really want to be able to take it to the beach. And it could be in that moment that it's me. It's just me that wants to go to the beach. It's me that wants to go out on my bike, or or maybe I am picking up on that she's needing a bit more social in whatever situation. But I feel like I'm deconstructing those constructs. Like, for example, today when I was sat in the garden and our lovely neighbours had said they'd been to the horse races locally, and they'd taken the dog, and there were loads of pointers, and like my whole body, English pointers, and German ones, my whole body literally contracted. And they obviously had a great time. They loved it. It was their jam. And they were sharing it with such enthusiasm. And I was just like, it's so fascinating how different I feel from that. And I'm cool with it. I'm so cool with that now. And I'm thinking back in my 30s, probably more my 20s, I used to self-medicate with alcohol to put myself in those social situations. So I used to, as a child, I was naturally, I would call myself a people watcher. I wouldn't call myself a people immerser. I had liked being within myself and observing people, which is exactly what Darcy's like with space. So then in my 20s, whatever I was wanting to learn and express and explore the world, and the social part of me, but I absolutely needed alcohol to help me cope with it. So it, not a bad thing. But they were these, I look back on those memories with great fondness, and thank goodness we didn't have cameras in those days, is all I could say. I could just have those great experiences. But I definitely need, like, as I'm getting older, maybe I just have more empathy for Darcy. It's because I understand myself more, and I've got
Yeah.
less self-blame about feeling. I find it, there still will be some people-pleasing elements in there where I think I'm responsible for somebody else's emotional reaction. That absolutely is still something will pop up every so often. But I just feel I'm much better at saying no and being like, I'm cool with that. And that has made me then be more confident at being an advocate for Darcy, because I don't feel those social pressures as much. They do happen, like out of the blue. They may just pop up. Literally the other day, we were walking down the road and we've got new neighbors, and they've got 2 really cute dogs. Like, it's the busiest dog road in the world. And they were walking down, the young lad was walking down, and I had Darcy, and like, this is just not a situation that we generally navigate with ease, because she goes into stalk mode. So I just popped off to the left, and she came with me to the left with ease, no problem. And then, for whatever reason, the dynamic between all of us, we were like, oh, should we let them meet? And all of my knowledge and everything in the past would have gone, no, let's just give space. But in that moment, I went, oh yeah, cool. Okay, let's do that. Whatever that was. And anyway, they got really close, and Darcy just was like that. Like, just the lips were going, the teeth. So I pulled her back, and of course, she exploded into the bar. But it's not random that I was having a tough day that day. Like, I was having a really tough day. And we got back in the house, and I just burst into tears. Yeah, I just was like, oh, and I just had all of this emotion coming up, and then had a conversation with someone else. And I kind of almost actively sought out this uncomfortable conversation. And I just had a really rough day. So I don't know where I'm going with that. The self-blame came up because I thought I'd done something wrong. In spite of my 25 years of working with dogs, I was like, oh, well, I went forward when I know normally I need to pop off to the left or whatever. I blamed myself in that moment. I was like, oh, I've messed up. I've put my dog in a situation they're not comfortable with. Now their dog's had to have a pop back and blah, 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 blah. And that whole situation, now I look back on it 3 days later or whatever it was, I get it. I don't need to understand it intellectually, like what was going on, but I get that in that moment, I did what I felt was right and I was drawn to do. And then all of my emotion bubbled up, and then things shifted. And I think that just is part of life. But what would have kept me in a lot of deep stress and pain would have been me beating myself up constantly, thinking I shouldn't have done that, should have known better, blah, 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 blah. And it's that's, you can hear it, can't you? And that's the bit that keeps us our minds closed and our bodies shut off, and that keeps us in a place of tension and stress. Whereas Darcy moved on. She's like that. I'm over it, girlfriend. She's like on the next, whatever, digging in the garden or laying in the sunshine. They don't have those constructs of blame. It just doesn't exist. They don't think anything has gone wrong. They don't think anything bad has happened. They just experience it. They're always honest. And I think, I know I've been talking a lot, but obviously this needs to come out of me. I just think that those honest emotions, we've got to get better at feeling them and owning them and riding them and experiencing them. And even if we think, oh my God, I'm still feeling it, stay with it. And it feels horrible in the moment, but I really feel like that's what Darcy's biggest teaching is for me at the minute, is riding through all of that wildness that she takes me on. Yeah. I didn't
So
know that I
good.
was gonna say all that.
So good.
So
I
good.
feel better
But
already.
isn't that a perfect example? This is exactly what life is like with dogs, right? Especially at those sensitive dogs. You're gonna have days and times when it's gonna be absolutely exactly like you say. You're gonna break down, you're gonna cry, you're gonna say, I wish this wasn't like this anymore. And you're gonna have days where it's like all sunshine and roses, and you're so in love with your dog that, you know, nothing can ever stop that, or nothing can ever do anything to break that moment. That's what life is.
Mm.
And until we learn to embrace all of it, that's all part of owning a dog. All part of having a dog in our lives, not owning a dog, that's the wrong wording. Having a dog in our lives is being in a relationship with a dog, and like any relationship, it's going to have its ups and downs, its ins, its outs.
Mm.
And yeah, I love your honesty and your openness, Rachel, because that's the truth. That's the truth that many people don't like to admit to, don't like to share, don't like to own up
Someone's
to, because
expressing.
it comes back to the self-blame stuff again, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Darcy's
Right?
got something to say.
Well, no, it wasn't Darcy.
It
That's
was
not Darcy?
Charlie.
That was Charlie.
His dad's home.
Nice.
Yay!
Party. Awesome.
And I just,
I
what I also just, sorry, Kim, what I also just want to add in here is, Rachel, we've known each other for quite a while. And I just remember the stage when you had an older dog, when you still had Baxter in your life, and he was this older dog, and Charlie was driving me absolutely nuts. And I would have these conversations, and you would say, "Oh, it's really not so bad." It's really- and I'm just thinking, this is
No.
so role reversal. It's just,
It
it
so is.
tickles me pink because, I've been there. When a lot of people might
Yeah.
hear me talk about my dogs, like everything's, bed of roses. But it wasn't like that when they were young.
Yeah.
No. I'm
It's
just
like
thinking
hanging on to the lead. Like hang on for dear life.
I'm thinking about when, like, your parents laugh at you when you have kids and they say, "Hi, you got one
Yes,
just
yeah.
like you."
Just wait for
Yeah.
your turn.
Just
It's
it's
coming.
because I mean, sensitive people, sensitive dogs, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's not a surprise that it happens, and I mean, Rachel, your story just was so perfect to tie into Sue's letting go, because that's ultimately the shift that we make here, and a couple of things came out in how beautiful is it that Darcy helped you release emotions. She got to release emotions. And we often forget the piece where the people that you were interacting with also needed a shock to their system in that moment.
Yeah.
And it's all like just part of the flow of life. And again, we've brought it up before, but at what point do we think everything's supposed to be
Mm.
roses? And
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 that
I also can't help but think about if there were cameras when we were younger, how we'd be recording this podcast from prison.
It's
oh dear.
hilarious.
Kim, as you were talking about that, what came up for me is, again and again, it comes up so much, is our fear of conflict. Because that's
Mm,
really what our dogs are showing us, some kind of conflict in that moment.
I'm
Like
just clearing
conflict.
my throat.
Conflict is such a big deal for us because we've been told that conflict is wrong.
mhm,
We've been taught that there is something wrong with conflict. It's a bad thing. And it's not. It's a way of communicating. It's a way of setting boundaries. It's a way of, yeah, communication. That's what it is, right? And it may not fit. It's like one person saying, I feel really passionate about this, and another person saying, I feel passionate about another point of view. That's what it is. And let's look at two dogs, for instance. It was so interesting. Charlie went up to he saw, to Charlie's eyesight's not so good anymore, and he saw a little Shiba Inu coming towards him on a lead. And he has a little friend who's a Shiba Inu on this walk that we often see. And so he thought it was his friend, started moving towards him. He wasn't on a lead. And my first thing was to call him. He didn't hear me. And so again, the whole guilt thing, oh, my dog's going to run up to this little dog and maybe he doesn't like to be blah, 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 blah. And then I just thought, you know what? I know Charlie's well enough now. He'll move out the way if the dog doesn't want any contact. And he went up waggy-tailed to this little Shiba Inu, and the Shiba Inu came nose to nose with him. But the person on the end of the lead, I could feel the tension there. I could see the tension in his face. Next thing, exactly what happened to what Darcy did, this little dog did to Charlie, showed his teeth and right whack, into Charlie's face. And he was like, "Whoa, sorry." And he just moved on and moved off and did whatever. And again, previously I probably would have apologized. I'm so sorry that I let my dog run up to you and I didn't, he's deaf and I can't hear him, and blah, would have made 1,000 excuses. And I just said, sorry, we tried. And I moved on and I laughed. And what I meant by that was we tried to say hello and be nice, but it wasn't meant to be. And that's okay,
Yes.
And the guy was also, he just relaxed. He just said, yeah, I knew it wouldn't work. But that's fine. And he moved on. But, afterwards, everybody was okay. And again, it's this, had I gone into that old thing, I shouldn't have let my dog run up to another dog, and I should have had my dog under control, and now I've let this dog get upset and blah, blah. We make up so many stories based on what we think should be the perfect situation and the perfect whatever. And it's not. What is perfect is what you said, Rachel, is what you felt in the moment to do. Because that's what you were drawn to. You were drawn to do it in that moment. You were there to have that experience. You had that experience. You learned what you needed to. You released what you needed to and moved on. What is wrong with that? 100% nothing. Is everything right about it, actually? And yet we could call it a bad experience because there was some kind of conflict in it. And I just don't think it's the truth anymore. You're speaking to somebody who is desperately fearful of conflict. And I still don't like it, but I'm learning to accept that conflict is not necessarily a wrong thing. There are circumstances, I'm sure, where it's not okay. But for the most, I think conflict is just communication.
And it is, isn't it? And it's still just a word.
It's a concept, isn't it? Again, it's a concept.
It is a construct. It is another construct.
Yeah.
Is when a volcano's exploding, is that conflict? I don't know. I guess it's, that's a rabbit hole, isn't it? With all of the label, as soon as we, we'd all sat down together, me, my partner and Darcy and the two other dogs, and then the people, which, we may do at some point, and the people that had the dog. Be fascinating to know what was going on for everybody in that moment. How was he feeling when he was, what had he been thinking about for the last few days? And it happened outside of our other neighbour's house, so they would have witnessed it. What did they need to witness? I just think there's so many other bits that are feeding into that what for us, because we're so in it, because we're like, we're a human. And like you said earlier, we only perceive so much, we only see so much until afterwards can we then pan out. But what else? Like the birds above, the trees above, what there was something that drew me forwards. And did the dogs do it all? Because there was so many things. I just think when we go into that place of self-blame and thinking it went wrong, we're just missing the bigger picture. We're missing that interconnectivity, and that everything is, we think we're making decisions in isolation, and I don't believe that anymore.
No.
I honestly don't. I feel like that we are downloading or receiving constantly information, and we interpret it through our senses and we verbalize it. But we are part of everything, and we're experiencing everything. So we are just expressing authentically in that moment whatever we're feeling, and it comes out in words and it comes out in movements. But did a tree fart? I don't know. It's
I'm gonna go with yes. Yes.
but that's the thing, because so many things, and
Yeah.
that like the stars, the planets. And this is not me like giving myself a pass. I'm not going, like letting myself off the hook per se, but it's not, there isn't even a hook. It
No.
just,
It's-
there's just more to it.
I think both of you hit on something that's so important. And Rachel, when you responded and went forward, it's just coming from your unconscious.
Yeah.
Because deep down inside of some place your logical mind doesn't understand,
Yeah.
you needed something.
Yeah.
And your body did that. And that's exactly what our dogs are doing. And they're in this moment, and they live in this moment, and they're honestly responding in every moment. We didn't put them in a situation. We didn't adopt a dog. Energetically, spiritually, however you want to say it, we found one another because we're like doing life together to help each other, to lift each other up, to bring that movement to that you talk about, right? That transformation forward. And I see now that I needed a really hard kick in the ass in order to understand this about myself. But Sue, you said something that to me is so important, and it's something when you asked Rachel at the very beginning what is true in the dog world, this didn't pop into my mind, but it is, and it's the word apology. And the amount of apologizing that we feel we need to do, like, that's a more collective, unconscious construct that we have, that we feel the need to apologize.
Yeah.
And I love your story, Sue, about how you were on this walk and that you just moved on with it, because these are not easy things. We three talk about them, and I just want to make it clear that these are simple concepts that are not easy. And it takes practice and like work and reflection and time. We've all been at this for a while. This isn't something you just read a book on or learn a recipe. This is different for every single person, every single relationship, and every single piece of life. But I think it's so important, and it's something that our animals are giving us that's such a beautiful gift, is the opportunity.
Oh, so good.
Yeah.
So good. Yeah. So I think what's coming up for me is again another little story that happened recently. And I just thought again it's about perspective and point of view, because like you said, in any situation there's so many different perspectives and point of views happening. And I was walking my dogs in the neighborhood and they were both on lead, and there's quite a narrow one-way lane coming in to the one side towards our house. And I was on that and there was a car coming. So I had to move over to the side of the road and I had to pull the dog quite close to me to let, the car go through the lane. And unfortunately, on this lane, on the one side is a fence. There are sometimes cows in that field. And when the cows are in the field, they electrify that fence. So Layla has been unfortunately shocked by that fence in the past. So she has a serious like no go near that fence. And I happened to be on that side of the road, and I was asking her to come towards me, towards the fence. I was standing between the fence and her, but I was asking her to move out of the road. And she was like saying, "No ways." And she knew there was a car coming. And I was like gently pulling and pulling, and eventually she just ducked out and let the collar come, off over her head and stood in the middle of the road. And then I had to like grab her by the shoulder and literally pull her into my body. And you could see that, I mean, she had her tail tucked, and I had to pull her in towards me because the car was coming and she had no collar or lead on. And in that moment, I was very gentle and I was actually really calm because I knew what was happening. I knew what her fear was about. But I thought to myself, if I had have been an onlooker to this situation,
Mm.
what would I have seen? What
Mhm.
would have I interpreted?
Good one.
And likely I would have interpreted this dog is petrified of this woman. She's probably beat her. She's probably done something awful, but this dog is petrified. She doesn't want to come near her person, and she's being forced to do so. And it just made me just again realize, because I know the situation, because I know exactly what was happening, I could see a completely different story. But somebody else may have looked onto that and seen a very different scenario and a very different story. And how often do we do that ourselves to other people? When dogs and people are struggling in a moment, whatever they're doing, it's so easy for us to go into judgment and to go into there's something wrong here, the person's done something, the dog's doing something, there's something radically wrong with the situation, versus there is actually a very logical explanation. I have no idea what it is. But
Oh,
instead of going into that judgment,
so
and I
good.
just, for me,
It's so good.
for me, it was just that reverse of how I used to judge people. I just used to, see a little bit of fear or discomfort in a dog, and I would straight away judge the person. Do you know what I mean? You've done
Yeah.
something wrong, you've hurt the dog, the dog doesn't trust you, blah, blah, blah. I would have so easily gone there. And yet here was I in that very situation, knowing what the truth was, but knowing the body language of my dog was saying something very different.
This is such a good story. I just love how you brought a real experience to help to bring that idea to light, that we only ever have part of the story, like the tiny, tiny bit of information. It's similar, but not dissimilar. I'll share another story of when I may have shared this one before. We were walking along the beach, just my partner and I, and there was a car parked on the road, on the pavement. And my partner was like, "Oh, that's so inconsiderate. Look at that car, like all the people having to move around it, and that's really dangerous." And then we got to the front of the car and it had an ambulance sticker on it. So she went from being really angry and annoyed at the car to then be like, "All right, okay, oh, that's really sweet. They're obviously doing their job." And it just, her whole everything changed with just one more piece of information.
Yeah.
And I just think if we can just flex those perception muscles, which are so calcified, a bit more than we just see things differently. I think it's happening in every conversation where we're, and
Mhm.
I don't think judgment's bad. I think that maybe like we need judgment because we need to be able to make decisions. We're making judgments all the time, but I think it's our creativity is dependent on being able to have different perceptions. And I think just doing silly exercise, I mean, I drive people nuts. I probably drive everyone I know nuts because if someone says something that's a definite, oh, I can't help it. I can't help myself. It's maybe this is why I'm here on earth, is to just make people squirm a bit, help them just. I'm just going to move your chest
Yeah, just
slightly
a
in that
little wiggle room here. Let's
just wiggle it around. I can't help it. It just, I have to, I have to help people explore that. It just,
Well, a question that
yeah.
came to me with that specific scenario, and that I keep referring back to myself is what else is possible? What
Yes.
else is possible in the scenario or with, whatever the situation is?
Yeah.
I've had a point of view. It's run through my head. I've told myself a story, and then I can just stop and say, what else is possible? I don't have to
Yeah.
mentally go through a whole lot, but just by asking that question, you opening up space to say, maybe I'm not right. Maybe that story that's running through my head is not the whole truth.
But you're forgetting something, Sue. We
What?
love being right.
We
Yeah.
always love being
We
right.
love being right. It feels so good. And that's just,
In your
and that,
face.
Well,
I'm,
but so Rachel, let me ask you this: why?
no, but I'm
Why
with
does it?
you.
I know I'm with you too. I love being right too. But here's a question for that. Why
Why
do
do
we
we like being
do
right?
right?
It's a really good question. Why does it feel good when we're right? It's
Yes,
almost like a one-upmanship, isn't it? Or it's like, I feel that it gives predictability as well. Like
yeah.
people, they think they're in control if they're right about
Ah.
Bingo.
Ding,
We've
ding,
just
ding.
by
ding, ding,
being
ding.
right,
Ding, ding, ding.
you're proving to your unconscious or to your belief system that you're okay. You're going to be
Yeah,
okay. You're
yeah.
safe.
I told you so.
I
See?
told
It's
you so
This is
because,
how we
predictability.
need to
yeah,
live our life.
yeah.
Yeah.
If we
And our
know
dogs
the
throw that
answers,
all into the
if we know the answers, then we feel we're safe. If we feel like we're in control.
Even if that being right keeps you in a place of
Yes,
deep pain and stress and all
yes.
of that.
better to be
Because
right
we
than
know it. It's
no,
predictable.
exactly. It's the predictability. Yeah, the safeness,
Interesting.
the control.
But I think when we can let go of that ego and realize that our interpretation of an event is just ours in that moment and it's going to change.
Yeah.
And I think, like, Sue, your story was so amazing about Layla, and then your description of what might someone else think. And I find that so interesting because what I see is that that's such a great mirror for you. And you were
Mm.
able to recognize it. But someone else, like I'm sitting here thinking if I was witnessing that, I'd probably make some popcorn and find it totally entertaining. Like I don't think that I would like, I wouldn't like automatically think like mistreatment or whatever, but like your experiences have shown you and that's where, when we say that our life is a reflection, it's true, but it's not always just this straightforward thing. But our actions show us so much
Mm.
in a given situation. And I remember, I mean, I've told the story about Django and his rabies catalyst reactivity stuff. We go to nose work class and we love going to class. It's really honestly searching is his favorite thing to do. But we've had to make these weird adjustments when we go to class because there's so many dogs and he's terrified of it. So he's a 40-pound Australian Shepherd and we carry him into class.
Yeah, I love it.
Past all the dogs, he sits in his crate. We carry him to the search area. He's like the best in the
Like an
class.
emperor.
And he's just his legs are hanging and he's just looking around. But if we asked him to walk, he'd be barking and lunging at every single dog. And how many times we were gonna quit. And I just couldn't bring myself to quit because he absolutely loves the people that he knows there. And it's like, do you take that away from him or do you just find some unconventional way? And so
Yeah.
many people stare at us and we used to feel like
Mm.
this, tiny because how were we failing him in not like being able to traverse these situations? And now it's just sort of like it's it's like he's walking the red carpet at the Oscars and we're just
Yes.
and that's how we see it. And we've stopped apologizing for
Mm.
his behavior and
Yeah.
for our because for years I listened to people tell me he was too much. And it just it's so not true because the gifts that he has brought into our family are I can't even list all of them. But I had to get over myself.
Yeah, and
That
you had
was
to
the
do it
thing.
your way. You
Yeah,
had to do it your
exactly,
way.
exactly, Kim. And
It may,
that's such a good example.
Authentic, right? The authentic us. Who's us? What's our family?
yeah,
And it's not that person with the perfect dog. And if that's what makes someone really happy, great. Then that's their path, right? But it isn't mine. And
mm,
I think I finally stopped walking someone else's path.
Mm,
And that's the difference, is when you realize that you kind of have to get your machete out and clear your own way.
mm.
yeah, or a fork.
But yeah,
Machete
I just
sounds much more powerful.
I just
Depends how
need
big your garden is.
I need to pull up my big girl pants. Trousers. Would it be trousers?
And
Trousers.
are you wearing pants today, at least, Kim?
Pants and trousers, apparently. I learned something.
Oh dear.
But I think that's really beautiful that you did that for him. I kind of liken it to, I love being on holiday, but I hate going on holiday.
Mm.
So if I could just teleport to my location, and if someone could create that for me, then I'd be like all over them. But I hate the travel bit, we'll packing the suitcase and blah, get in the airport and driving and blah, and on the plane, I'm like the annoying child. I'm like, oh, what's this button do? Oh, I need to stand up. I need to go to the toilet. And I'm naturally someone that's quite relaxed, at home. I like sitting, I like plinking, plonking around. I wouldn't say I've got ants in my pants. Put me on an aeroplane. The energy of all the people in there and the
Oh,
plane and the everything. I'm like this. Ding, 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 ding. I can't sit still. I shift my legs all over the place. So I don't really enjoy the containment of it. So I love that for me, it brings images of, I used to read Asterix and Obelix,
Mhm.
and there's the chief they carry in on the shield. Everywhere he goes, he's carried on a shield. That's what the image of it brings to me.
Yeah, and to me, it's,
Wow.
a lot of that is, for me, I'd love to see so many people find more unconventional ways that suit them and their dogs versus what it's supposed to look like. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Everybody,
yeah.
and it is, like you say, it's being brave enough to say, well, I'm going to figure this out. What works for me and my dog
Yeah.
versus what am I supposed to be doing, or does that look stupid, or that's not allowed, or whatever the case is.
Yeah.
It's like the argument the argument. There's there's two sides to you. It's it's one of those things that you will love to do and then watch, Kim, is you put small dogs into a pram, into a kiddie's pram. I mean, a lot of
yeah.
them have like doggy prams now, whatever you want to call it. But just watch all the opinions start popping up,
Mhm.
right? And again, everybody can have their own point of view. That's fine. But isn't it so interesting how fiery a conversation like that can be for some people? Like, oh, that dog is not a child and it doesn't want to be pushed around and blah, blah, blah. And again, do they have all the information? And does it work for that person and their dog?
Right.
There are a lot of dogs who are too old, too sick, too whatever, too scared, to whatever. But they really do enjoy being put in a little basket or a little pram and being pushed around. So again, it's so easy for us to judge what
Mm.
should be right and should be wrong according to what we think is. But, hats off to anybody who decides to do something that works for them and their dog
Exactly. Without apologizing.
without having to apologize, yeah, or make excuses.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like doggies. Let's just call them doggies, shall we? It's like dogs wearing clothes, isn't it? That's it's a similar thing.
Same thing. Yeah.
My
Yeah.
bestie always puts like bandanas on her dogs, and like we went to this one dog show in Somerset, and she's got this little chihuahua called Chico, I think his name is,
Go.
and she made a little cowboy hat for him, and anyway, he didn't win anything in the show, but he loved it. He literally, because he just loves attention. So she carried him around in this little cowboy. And some people would have thought, and I'm pretty sure the people that were doing the judging thought, oh, that's terrible. You shouldn't have a hat on that dog. You know, his tongue's hanging out. He's got a few teeth. She loves all the wonky, she loves the wonky donkey dogs. And this dog he was beaming, like just all of the people coming up and loving on him. And, another dog would have hated it. But for him, it was just so joyful. And I feel like that sensitivity with dogs, when I'm just getting an image of when we pick them a collar or we pick them a harness or we pick, I know when I wear certain clothes, I feel good, and wear other clothes, I don't feel good. Like, do our dogs yeah, like, do they want to wear like a different color collar? Do they want to wear it's not just about how it feels physically on their body. I feel it's how people respond to how they are and how they look, which is why some people with big bull breeds, because there's so much misinformation about bull breeds and they're scary, yada yada yada, and people will put them. Well, someone will put them in studded wear because they love the gothic image, but others will put them in like big flowery things to just help shift people's
To
perspective,
soften it a little bit. Yeah.
soften it.
A bully in a tutu.
Yes.
So I mean, that's an interesting question. And there was I remember once doing people talk, about color therapy. I mean, that's a
Yeah.
thing where people wear different colors depending on their moods, and it can lighten the mood depending on what color your room is painted or your furnishings are. We know that color affects mood and that we are attracted to certain colors. Each one is unique, individual, but also at certain times of the day or certain seasons or whatever, we may be attracted to different colors. And so I've thought to myself, well, it must be the same for dogs. I mean, they are also, why shouldn't they feel more comfortable in certain colors? And there was an experiment that I did. It was, when I say an experiment, was my own sort of little idea of what an experiment would be like. But I actually offered my dogs I put like all their harnesses, their equipment out for them. So some was like a blue harness or a green collar or whatever. And I just allowed them, I said to them, which would you like to choose? And I just, watching their body language, I said, okay, you're going to put this one on today. And it could be all a load of nonsense, but I do believe that by giving my dogs a choice, is it possible that they were drawn to the comfort of that specific harness or collar, but B, could it also be in the color? Maybe they are.
Oh,
I don't
I
know.
think so.
It
Because it's
it
just energy, isn't it? It's
it all
It
carries
is.
frequency.
energy
Color
for
is
sure.
energy. They're bands of energy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what
Yeah.
as our auras change and our demeanors change, we're gonna attract different people into our life,
Mhm.
different experiences, different animals, different, I mean, we go through seasons in our life, and I know our dogs do also. And so I love the fact that you give choice in that way.
I don't
That's
always. It was just that,
fun,
that
but it's
time, that
fun.
experiment, but it was just to see, why shouldn't it be any different? Why
Yeah,
should, they are sensitive beings, they are energetic beings, and they are sensitive to energies. So,
yeah, and
yeah.
we talked about it, I think, last time where we did the water experiments.
Yes, exactly.
You
Yeah.
put, like, words underneath the glass bowl, and then you give them their regular bowl, and it's like they always go for the bowl with the structured water or the loving
Moon
saying underneath
water.
of it, or
Yeah.
yeah, the moon
Mhm.
water. I mean, it's not random, and I think
It's a
that
fun way, I think, again, it's
yeah,
just another fun way to experiment communicating with your dog in a completely different way.
yeah,
By seeing them as a very sensitive, sentient, intelligent being and giving them choice in different things, like, what color would you like your blanket on your bed to be? Maybe that makes a
mhm,
difference.
yeah,
Or just noticing if I put a really soft blue tone, Does my dog sleep better? I mean, it may be something so random, who knows, but perhaps just a fun experiment at the same time.
I think that that's just it, right? Approaching all of this with a playfulness and just
Curiosity,
a
playfulness, yeah.
curiosity and open heart to just try things out of the box that maybe other people aren't
Mm,
trying. I
Yeah.
mean, there's no set rules and there's no rule book and there's no recipe for success. And it's the harder we control, the more things that are going to happen, right? I mean, what happens when you squeeze something really tight and it like, I'm thinking of like the rubber toy and you squeeze it and it's like the heads just pop out from, you know,
yes.
gonna find a way to come out.
Yeah.
And so the harder we try to cover something and the longer we sweep it, the more forcefully it's gonna show itself again. Just what you said earlier, Sue, it's we attract more of what we're thinking about. And when we get that obsessive worry that happens
Mm.
so often when a dog is sick or reactive and we're afraid to go out, I mean, the more that that happens, the more you're gonna show yourself you're right. So you just start isolating more.
And isn't it, I mean, that's something we heard one of our listeners had a comment about that, and it's just something that I've heard so often over the years is that, people, when they sort of go on this journey of, I have a sensitive dog, and these are all the things that I need to be taken care of and managing, etc. Our world gets smaller and smaller and smaller with our dogs,
Mm.
and we feel that. We feel that pressure. They feel that pressure. And it comes to the stage where we're too scared then to step out of that tiny little world. And so a lot of people choose to stay in that space. And if that's their choice, that's their choice. There's nothing wrong with that again. But often people think that's what they're stuck with, if you know what I mean.
Mm,
That's what the rest of their life is now meant to look like, versus, okay, so we had this period where we had to kind of contract a little bit and understand each other and see where our boundaries and our limits and everything were. But now it's time to start exploring and expanding and allowing the
mhm.
trust in ourselves and in our dogs and in the world to start expanding again versus staying in that contracted, pressurized state, which can often happen.
And I feel like it's an expansion, contraction, expansion, contract. I feel like it's because there are
Mm.
because I was thinking um today I quite like simplicity so much more than I used to. Like I like very, very simple things and not, my world is, I mean, I love lots of color and I love la 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 la, but I find I get more joy from very, very, very simple things.
Mm.
And
Mm.
from having a dog that is quote unquote sensitive, then she takes me to places, or I take her because she hasn't learned to drive yet, damn her, to places where it is quieter. And I do seek that because of the work I do. It is about I need to be sensitive as an animal communicator. I
Mm.
need that quiet time. I need that time in nature. I need that like bigger picture awareness. And if I was just hustling and bustling constantly, I think, wowzers, I don't even know. So maybe, but then there are times where I do seek busier and I'll go busier places with Darcy because whatever we need it. But I feel that maybe those people that have those sensitive, big feeling, reactive dogs, they just are seeking more solitude and seeking more
Yes.
time alone and in nature. And like, what's the word we use when we say someone's not sociable? We say they're antisocial. And it's like, they will say, oh, I don't want to hang out with people that are being antisocial. No, you're not. You're just honoring what you
Mm.
feel. And, all other species, all over the planet, insects and animals on the planet, they're not all out like hanging out together all the time. There are some species that do need solitude and that are
Mm.
lone beings. And I think we bought into the idea that human beings are social beings. Bullshit. Like, it doesn't
Yeah.
mean you have to be sociable with people. You may be sociable with soil or rocks or
Yeah.
trees or birds or flies or
Yeah.
pieces of paper. I just think whatever you connect with that. And I just think there's so much pressure to be what this social thing is. And I totally bought into that. And there's a space for all of it. Those people that love being around people and those people that love absolute isolation. There is nothing
Mm.
wrong with them and nothing wrong with that.
Mm.
And I think that's if we start to understand that, then we wouldn't need to train our reactive dogs. We would just be like, oh, they just need space. That's cool. Or
Yes.
just go somewhere quiet. There's nothing wrong with
Exactly.
that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, that like just hit me right in the heart because it is, in a way, the story that happened with me. When Django, I mean, it's impossible to walk him on the road or on the trails, but we found each other. He found our family. We've got 10 acres. He doesn't need anything else. And Rachel and Sue, I would have told you I was like this super social person. I want to be out. I want to do this and this and this. And I had all these things because I was always social in my younger years. And I was out and I worked and it was dynamic living. And then this dog comes in and I hated it for years. It was so hard because I fought myself when in reality I wanted to be more isolated and alone, and I didn't understand why. And now I know it's animal communication, it's writing. Those things you can't do in a space with thousands of people or hundreds of people. And if I were out in this dynamic life, I wouldn't ever get quiet enough to do the work that I found heals my soul. I would have never found it. And that like is everything. But I had to finally kick my ego to the curb again and just listen to the heart speak, not my brain. Because my brain showed me what humans do, and that is we go out and we socialize and we do this and this and this. And, we, man, I just want to sit and stare at the wall for a while or sit under a tree, because that's when the ideas flood in and that's when the writing happens and that's when profound things happen. And so I've changed through seasons of my life. Who knows what tomorrow or next week will bring. But right now I'm completely contented. And it's really thanks to this sensitive dog that came in and showed.
They're just the most amazing catalysts. Sadly, it happens mostly in hindsight, doesn't it? It
Mm,
happens in hindsight when we look back over the years and say, oh, so that's why that's what triggered all these other things. And that's who I am
yeah.
today because of that catalyst. How often are our sensitive, reactive dogs the catalysts to really, amazing transformation in our own lives, or just experience and laugh.
And somebody said it, like Sue, I think you said it, maybe Rachel said it, maybe you both said it. But like that when you feel that contraction and that, that quietness and you can go into introspection, I mean, that's when you find
Mm,
who you are. And I mean, that's just the whole ride of this life, right? To find our purpose or identify it more than we don't have to find anything. It's just, and we have different purposes as we go. It doesn't have to stay the same.
no, that's the other thing, right? There is no one specific path or one
No,
specific
you're not
purpose or
this
one specific,
person.
yeah.
You're experiencing this today, but tomorrow it will
It
change. And I
just
have,
changes, yeah.
like, that's just been it, right? You go from this career to this career to this career. I mean, maybe. And, it's not different. You have children, they're infants, then they're teenagers, then
Yeah,
they,
yeah,
then you're an empty nester. I mean, it just goes, it's the cycles.
it
It's the
is.
cycles of death and rebirth and death and rebirth. And we think that we have only one life, and that's just I don't think that's true. I think we live through death and rebirth cycles our entire time in this breathing physical body.
Mm.
I agree.
Yeah, and
What
I think,
else do we
the
have?
other day,
Oh,
somebody was saying again that
we're
that thing
rebirthing.
where somebody says, it was somebody who'd lost their dog fairly recently, and she said, "Oh, it's just so sad that dogs don't get to live long lives like humans do." And it's true, but it's also there's another side, there's a flip side to that. We get to see, for most people, we get to see on an average dog's lifespan, we get to see all of that. Do you know what I mean? Versus me as a parent, it's a long progress seeing my kids from being born to growing as adults and to getting old, etc. It's a long time. Whereas dogs, we get to see that entire change of cycles that you're talking about, Kim. Going through the ups and the downs and the illnesses and the all of that. You get to see that in the aging process and the death process. We get to experience that whole lifespan, if we're lucky, with our dogs in our lives. And to me, that's just a miracle that we get to experience that. Do you know what I mean? That we get those beautiful lessons and watching that being go through their different life cycles. Um,
I so agree.
we get what a blessing is that we are allowed to
Yeah.
witness that and get their entirety. And often, as dog mums and dads and parents and owners and guardians, whatever you want to call yourself, you get to sometimes do it multiple times with multiple dogs.
Yeah,
I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
I see that as a real blessing. I really do.
yeah, and we have fox that live right outside our fence, and there's a family, and so every year we look forward to seeing the baby that comes, but I think 2 years ago, 2 summers ago, and I had to look this up because I didn't know that wild fox had, like, only a 3 to 5-year lifespan, and one of them came under our guardian tree in our yard and died. There was nothing. It just was old age, I think. It was this beautiful fox, and we, picked it up and put it outside the fence and like, and buried it and just but it was the cycle of life becomes very real when you see the natural lifespan of a creature that
Mm,
only has 3
mm.
to 5 years, and it's like we probably watched that baby run around a few years before and didn't even realize it, and I think Zori chased one the other day, in fact. It's kind of funny, it was toddling around. It got away because she came right back to me, but, yeah, it's kind of funny that they play, you know? They, but these lifespans, and it's like then you see the mess of feathers on the ground where a hawk has dropped part of its prey, and you realize nature is relentless. I mean, it's just we're nature. So all the things that we deal with, we try to make it roses and donuts, and it just
Yeah, again, I mean, that brings up the whole thing of we want to protect our dogs from pain and sickness and all of those things like we do want to do for our children as well. And it's unnatural to expect that. I mean, it's natural for us to feel that,
right.
especially as women, as nurturers, we want to protect our young, we want to protect our loved ones. Nothing wrong with that. But also when it gets to the stage where we get so worried and so anxious about protecting them from illness and injury and all of those things. People can get really, really uptight. I was once like that, make sure that I know everything that's going into their bowl and what their routine is and, all the vet
Mhm.
checks and blah, blah, blah. And you can become paranoid about protecting your animals from natural life,
Yeah.
from having the natural cycles of life.
And how much of that are we holding,
Yeah.
and we don't like Rachel, you said it, you let it pass through. You feel it and you
Mm,
listen to it and you allow it to pass through. instead of holding it or sweeping it
Mm.
away and pretending that it doesn't exist.
Mm.
And sometimes shit happens and you have to sweep it away, but don't forget to go back and, like, listen to it, you
Yeah.
know? There might be a moment of total, utter chaotic stress that
Mm. Mm.
you need to put that you out there, that
Mm.
tough you, and, you know, story comes to mind of a friend's dog who got attacked at the dog park, and she laid on the dog, and, so that's very stressful because another dog attacked her dog, and she's laying on top of her dog trying to protect it, and you need to go back, you need to do what you do in the moment, and then you need to go back and just reflect and feel it again and almost, just let it pass through you.
Yeah, and then, no, I think it's we're so scared of that pain ourselves, like moving through it, feels so scary and so uncomfortable and so enormous that we feel that we are not going to survive. And the
Mhm.
truth is, we do survive. We are resilient human beings.
Yes.
Um, that not only ourselves, but if you just look at humanity, look at some of the world disasters that have happened, the wars, the famines, the all sorts, and yet people do survive and they
Mhm.
rebuild and life goes on. And I think we almost have to have a couple of those experiences in our life to realize that we are that we're much bigger than a traumatic event.
Mhm.
That traumatic event doesn't define us. We can feel it and it can leave scars of both a physical, emotional nature, but we are resilient and we move on.
Yes. Love it.
And
So
I
what
think our dogs are
essential
so good at teaching us that too.
Oh,
Mm.
for sure.
Yeah.
Because they just bounce back.
Mm.
I mean, they just move on. I mean, they don't apologize for anything.
No.
I'm sure Darcy didn't write a letter to the people. "I'm really sorry I
No.
barked. My bad."
Do you think it kept her up at night, Rachel?
Yeah.
Feet in the air, replaying it. Oh no.
She's planning next time. "Next time, I think I'll try this."
Yes.
She's gonna make an adjustment.
Oh,
Oh,
hilarious.
dear.
I mean, so what essential oils do we have today, ladies?
Melissa,
Oh.
because I went to a walled garden at the weekend and I was just really drawn to it. Out of all the plants and herbs that were growing in that garden, and I hadn't smelt it, and I was just looking at it. I was like, "Oh, that's really lovely." And then I was like, "Oh, that smells good." So Melissa
Mm.
is,
Lemon balm, right?
yeah, correct,
Mm.
correct. What
I
about
love
you
eating
both?
we grow that in our garden, and I love
Do
eating the
you?
leaves. Yeah.
Right.
Just
I
pull
haven't
one
actually
off and
tried to. Yeah.
Oh,
Do
it's
you put
like
them in
grows.
salads?
No,
say
I
what?
I use them for put them in my drink,
Yeah.
in my cocktail,
Yes.
or
Yeah.
or a nice fresh lemonade or something like that to just
Yeah.
spice it up a little bit, or
Mm.
or a tea sometimes.
If
I
Rachel
have
goes to the garden centre to buy some lemon balm.
I have Anna's Star today.
Ooh.
Delightful.
And you, Sue?
Oh, just melting into this geranium at the moment.
Oh, yes,
Smells like
geranium.
mm. Oh, it smells like sweeties. I just want it's like a big
Oh.
soft pink pillow. I just want to lie in it, like a dream. Oh, it's
They're
divine.
all
It's
quite
so
edible,
pretty.
aren't they?
Mm.
Yeah. I just spilt it all over myself, so
Oh, oops. Not
I will
random.
be I will be smelling like Anna's all day.
Well, clearly somebody else in the household
Fantastic.
needs it too.
Exactly.
You're sharing it.
Gorgeous.
I said I have just a really quick story before we close out because it was just so amazing. I have I don't have it up here, but I have a crystal and it's tiger's eye. And I was up here watering all the plants and it was sitting back here on the table where the dolphin and the plant are. And I'm watering the plant and like Django comes in and he knocked it over. And I'm like, he does that sometimes where he just like he messes with things or steals a shoe. So I put it back and I'm watering the next plant and he knocks it over. And I'm like, I put it back and I'm watering a plant and he knocks it over. And I'm like, dude, do you want that? And I brought it's like a little crystal slab, like probably 3 inch by 3 inch. And I brought it down and I put it like on the floor for him. And that dog laid on that crystal all day, like around where his right shoulder was. And it
Wow.
was
Brilliant.
awesome. And I love that. But I love how he just was like insistently telling me.
Yeah.
Like, subtle, but, like, and I've started to pay attention to that. I remember, Zam would just stand over the oregano plant, and I'd cut off some leaves and bring it in, and
Mm,
she'd lay on it, and it's
Lovely.
I just, like, I love the subtleties when we start really observing them.
mm.
Yeah.
That's Rachel, I remember, I think I've said this one before, so I won't go into detail, but I remember with geranium as well. I remember doing an animal communication with you, with Layla, and you had said that geranium came to you, for her, on her behalf, geranium essential oil. And I don't know what with the conversation led me to think, where does she enjoy lying? I don't think I even had geranium essential oil in my house at that stage. And it turned out that I suddenly remembered how she always loves to lie in a certain spot in the garden. And I could have easily said, oh, well, she goes there because there's shade or there's sun or it's a comfy spot or whatever. But it was just so amazing that that's where she chose to rest. And right above there was a rose geranium bush. And that's probably why you were picking up that she loved geranium, that was a spot that she used to love to settle in the afternoons, was right by the rose geranium bush. And I just see it as it's not a coincidence. Do you know what I mean? Some
Brilliant.
people would. Some people say, oh, it's just a pure coincidence.
Mm,
Could be. But for me, it was, when you start to, as you say, if you start to slow down and become curious, there's amazing synchronicities and things that are happening under our noses that our dogs are giving us information all the time.
mhm.
And we either
Subtle.
totally misread it or we miss it all together, which is again comes back to what you were saying, Kim, how the dogs help us to slow down in life so that we
Down.
can start noticing these things.
I
Absolutely.
love that.
That's a truth bomb and a
Yeah,
great one to end on.
for sure.
Mm.
For
So that is
sure.
a wrap to our episode 16. Thank you, ladies, so much. I haven't said this yet, but do like, share, subscribe. And yeah, we love having these conversations. And we also love getting the feedback from those of you that are listening and going on this journey with us together, because it is a collective experience and a collective journey. And we're all about the feedback. So thank you both.
Yeah, ask us a question. We like questions.
We love questions.
Thank you,
All righty.
Rachel. Thank you, Sue.
Thank you,
Always.
ladies. As always, a pleasure.
Amazing.
Beautiful being with you. And yeah, the sharing and the stories always just, shift us to such I think, a special place. Yeah. Thank you.
Good for the soul.
Thank you out there to everyone listening.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. We feel you.
We're grateful.
Yeah, we
Thank you.
really are.
Thank you. Like,
Till next
subscribe, come
time.
and join our channel.
Like and subscribe.
Bye now.
Bye.